Mr. Vice. I'm still trying to get that, Mr. Vice Mayor. So I'm having a major problem with that. It's bad. Just having conversations with the oldest daughter. I'm the oldest. Got a hearing in a couple 10.
Hello?
We'll let you know, Patrick, when you'll listen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. This is our special commission meeting, January 18th, a variance hearing, agenda item report. Shantae, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor O'Happen,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Hammelberg.
Here.
Commissioner Samaria.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Samara, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. Okay, I'll turn the meeting over to Valerie, our attorneys.
Thank you, Mayor. We are now beginning the quasi-judicial hearing. There are two matters that are before this commission this evening, and we're going to begin with the first one, which is variance PV 22-0001. Property address is 11636 Northeast 7th Avenue. The hearing will be conducted by the Village Commission, which will hear testimony from the applicant and then the public. The clerk will swear in all witnesses before they speak. Each person who speaks should state their name and whether they have been sworn in. The material in the commission's agenda package will be considered as part of the record. After the applicant has testified, the hearing will be opened up to members of the public to speak in support of or against the application for the variance. The Village Commission may set reasonable time limits for members of the public who speak. Members of the public may choose to be sworn in. If a member of the public chooses not to be sworn in, The Village Commission may consider that as a factor in evaluating the speaker's comments. Does the Village Commission wish to establish time limits now for public speakers? 2 minutes.
I don't think it's necessary. We only have a couple of people here.
We don't have.
After members of the public speak, the applicant may make additional statements. We now move to quasi-judicial disclosures. And again, this is just pertaining to the first application to be heard, which is for the property address of 11636 Northeast 7th Avenue. The applicant is PRBP LLC. If any commissioner has had any ex parte contacts that are not part of the record, those contacts should be verbally disclosed at this time.
I had some, Valerie.
Disclosures.
I did. I spoke with Valerie about this. I communicated with her by email. I spoke with Gage Hartung, the P and Z chair, several times on the phone about this matter. And I introduced myself to these gentlemen when they came in this evening.
Are there any other additional ex parte disclosures for this application?
I spoke with Gage Hartung, our P and Z manager. Director.
I spoke with Gage, and I also spoke with Mario in regards to this matter.
I spoke to the city manager about it. Thank you.
Please be advised that your decision at the conclusion of the hearing must be based upon competent substantial evidence related to the village's code of ordinance and not generalized opposition that is not fact-based. I will not take either a motion to approve or deny the application.
Oops. I'll
Thank
make a
you.
motion to deny.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
At this time, all persons who will be witnesses in this matter, please raise your hand so that the clerk may swear you in. The applicants have their hands raised, and if there's anybody else on Zoom that that's going to be speaking, who wishes to be sworn in, please raise your hand.
If there's anybody on Zoom that's going to testify, please raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much, Madam Attorney.
Thank you. If there are members of the public who wish to be heard, you will be provided time before the close of the hearing to speak. You may choose to be sworn in and cross-examined, but you do not have to be sworn in. I'm sorry, I already ran over that. Will the applicant please state your name and address for the record and present any evidence you would like to offer in support of your application? And if you can, just come to the podium.
Please take your mask off while you're speaking. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. We are
It's
the-
not on yet.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, good evening. Thank you for having us, mayor, commissioners, village clerks. So we are the owners of the lot on 7th Avenue, which we purchased back in November 2020, knowing the conditions the property was in, which were, very deteriorated, very damaged, excuse my English. Part of the condition of purchase with the.
Speak louder, please.
Part of the condition of purchase with the city of Biscayne Park at that time was to get that property removed, so demolish the property and build a new existing single-family home. And then in December, the code changed to request new construction plans prior to demo permits. So we fell in this space because when we purchased a property, part of the condition was to demolish it within 90 days and start pulling permits. And then the code changed, so we were not able to demolish unless we provided new plans, which we invested and spent 6 months in getting these plans ready. We provided the plans in the summer of this year. So then we found out that, the lot was 5 feet too narrow, even though it was a 11,000 square foot lot almost, and we were meeting all the requirements of the setbacks. All we're missing is 5 feet of frontage to allow for a new single-family home, which was the intention when we purchased it from our side and the requirement from the park and the village. I'm sorry. So, we bought the property with the intention of demolishing it, which to our understanding was an eyesore in the park, which had been handed down, I think, for 3 or 4 different buyers. The last buyer of which started demolishing it to a point where it's unrepairable. So, what we're trying to do is remove a structure that, from our understanding, everyone in the park agrees that should be removed, and replace it with a new single-family home. We're not asking to rezone the land for a different use than what's already in place. All we request kindly, we took a chance on Biscayne Park, buying a property that was abandoned for a while and demolished internally. All we're asking for is for the village to also allow us to continue with the plan that we had in mind. Because for us, that property has zero value from the engineering point of view. And I personally, don't think it's unreasonable to replace a structure that everyone agrees is an eyesore and replace it with a new home, which would improve, right, the neighborhood in that sense. I believe we have our neighbors' support in this as well. So again, we're only asking to allow us for 5 feet or to make an exception of that 5-foot rule. We have 70 feet by 110 feet. We're not asking to change the land use. We want to replace it with the same type of use. But we all agree that the structure in place, it's been abandoned for I don't know how long already, over probably 20 years. And inside it's completely deteriorated, destroyed. And there's nothing inside, and the walls are falling inside. So it wouldn't even be safe to try and use the existing structure. It's a risk for us that we build a new house using that structure. It's a risk for us that structure, 6 months from now can completely demolish, and it can happen halfway through the job. So it's not a risk we can take. Right? For us, the only feasible option here is to demolish that structure and build a new one, which again was the condition at purchase in November of 2020. We were asked to pull permits and demolish within 90 days. And we had everything ready to go in June. We asked for an extension. In June, we had all
Speak
the-
louder, please.
and we asked for an extension, and by June we had all of our MEPs ready and were presented to the city. At that time, we were denied, and we came back. We've been 6 months at this. We're honestly not trying to get rid of the lot, flip the lot, give it to someone else. No, we want to assume this responsibility of beautifying that property, which we all agree deserves it. So I please ask for everyone on this commission to consider what we're asking. I feel we are here to help the village, and we want your support as well. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Stay
ma'am.
there, please.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name is Roberto Lopez, and I'm the architect of the house. I think the only thing that Rodrigo missed was saying that we're not modifying the setbacks. We are maintaining the zoning, and we're complying with the zoning setbacks. So we want to make a new house based on our new contemporary needs, and we believe that demolishing the existing house is the best that can happen to the village and to the, urbanistically to the street, because as you can see, I believe you've seen and you know the house is totally ruined. We had a report from our engineer saying that it was not feasible, reutilizing the foundations and the structural blocks, the shell. So it's easier for us and less expensive to not to repair the structure. It's better to demolish and build a new one. Again, I believe we're making a very nice house, and it's going to be adding value to the whole village. And this is the house that we're planning to build. It's more or less what we filed. And well, I think that's all we need to say.
Sorry, Mayor, any questions you had?
That's okay.
Okay, and does the commission have any?
Prior owner had permits taken out for a kitchen and a bathroom. And they subsequently withdrew it, correct? Because they were going to sell the house. I find it hard to believe that the house was gutted when they came to get permits for a bathroom and a kitchen. Who gutted the house?
They gutted the house.
So I can't understand you.
They gutted the house.
Who did that? Was that you?
No,
Or was
they-
that the prior
they-
owner?
The prior owner. I don't know if they gutted it with permits, but it looks like people went in with this, like a hammer and tore everything out. There's just dirt. and the
So when
brick.
you saw the house, it was gutted already?
Yes, it wasn't.
Because I just find it strange that they would apply for permits and then
Well, maybe I can't.
gut the house.
I can't speak for them, but when we bought
Right.
it, it was in that condition, and we took on that responsibility, hoping also because part of, when we bought the house, the requirement was for us to pull permits and demolish within 90 days. That was in November of 2020.
Okay, now your engineer who said that the house should be demolished,
Yes,
they
ma'am.
also said that about the garage in the back,
The shed?
correct?
Correct.
Did they talk about at all the adjoining garage, which is attached by the same wall? Is that going to be able to stand
Yes,
by
that-
itself without that? Because that's been probably 50, 60,
yes,
70 years.
That will be protected. It will be,
I can't understand
that
you.
will be, I'll let the architect.
No, we need to structure that shed. Our neighbor's shed must be structurally reinforced because we know that it's sharing
And he
walls.
says that other building will stand.
Yeah,
fine
for sure.
without
No,
your
yeah,
half.
yeah.
That's hard to imagine after all those years.
Yeah, well, it's just a shed.
I'm sorry?
It's a very simple shed, so it's not, you only need
Well,
to
that they have the
to
same
reinforce.
middle wall.
The middle wall will
same.
be maintained, yeah. The middle wall will be maintained. And we're gonna be only cutting the trusses of the roof. No, it's not a concrete. It's not concrete, it's wood. It's wood, yeah.
The wall in between the garage, that dividing wall is wood?
No, the divided wall is concrete, it's blocks of concrete, yeah. But the ceiling and the trusses they're wood. And the only thing you have to do is just cut them and reinforce the wall that it's in the middle. That's all you have to do. It's very simple. It's not and obviously we need to speak to our neighbor, to Patrick, and he knows about it. And
We told Patrick we would, of course, make sure if there's any
I can't understand.
if there's any damage done during the demolition of that or of the cut of our part of the shed, we told Patrick we would 100% cover anything that would happen to his wall. We would cover anything that would happen to our neighbor's wall. We spoke to Patrick about it, and I believe he's here on the call as well. We would be responsible, but the shed itself, yes, we would cut our part. The roof is wood, and the wall between both of us would be maintained.
See, this could affect the other variance because I just want to know if that other side is going to be able to stay up, because when a house is that old and it's been there for so many years, that wall is kind of holding both sides up, probably.
We reinforce the wall.
Sorry?
The wall is, we have to reinforce.
It's one wall.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
reinforced. Correct. You reinforce the wall.
Okay.
This way.
I,
And the other, and the other.
I
our-
understand construction, yeah. Okay, the other thing is, have you looked at the neighborhood of two-bedroom homes, basically? And
Yes.
putting a home of this size on a lot that's too small?
We're complying with the lot coverage, and we believe the needs of contemporary homes right now, they're demanding three bedrooms, bathrooms. Our proposal has 3 bedrooms and a flex, that it could be, yeah, it's an office, it could be a flex, it could be an office, it could be a den. But we have 4 spaces as bedrooms, and we believe it's a very well designed house.
May I ask a procedural question very quickly, Valerie? First of all, just want to make sure everyone's clear who's listening. The lot is not too small. It's not an undersized lot. That's not what we're discussing. It's only, it's the frontage that is too short. The lot is not undersized. Those are 2 different measurements. The
Correct.
lot's
I know that.
fine.
I
Okay.
believe we're.
Just want to make
about-
sure we're not misstating things. Valerie, are we going to have them go through their 4 points before we start asking questions? Because I'm afraid we're going to be asking them questions. And then I want to hear them address the 4 points so we can ask questions.
Ask them.
Okay.
So just to add, I mean, the constructed area in the lot, just the structure is about 30% of the lot cover, the entire lot. So I mean, right behind us, right, there is a much larger 2-story, like I believe it's maybe over 6,000 square foot home. So I mean, the home we're proposing is 3,200 square feet. Correct, the house. Correct, I mean, the.
We're going to be designing a 2-story building, so 2-story single-family home. And after we saw all the houses on the neighborhood, we believe that architectonically it will be better to have this kind of architecture, one story, and we believe it's adding a lot to the village. So
May I ask a question,
I think
please,
that's
May I ask a question, please?
mainly what. Yeah,
So,
that's it.
I have a number of questions I want to ask you guys, but I'd like to ask first that you run through the 4 points of the variance for us. At a variance hearing, we're bound to consider only the responses to those 4 things. So all of this other information is interesting and the home is lovely to look at, but we're bound to look at those 4 things. So I'd like to hear you answer the 4 questions of the variance hearing, please.
I believe we
Could
submitted.
you
our
present them to
answer.
us, please? Yep, they're in here.
Yeah, we submitted. I have to look for them, but we submitted them.
Just a question that I have before. Commissioner,
Yes.
Just one question. Is there going to be, the owners are going to be living in it, right? It's not to sell, right? This is for the owners. They're going to be living in this place?
No.
No. Gonna sell it. That's what I thought. Okay, that's what I was. Okay.
It just seems to me to be out of character with the street. I know 7th Avenue intimately. I looked at properties that were almost next door to that house. I have friends who live on that street. They're mostly 2 and 3 bedroom homes. So a 5-bedroom home just seems a little bit out of that number 4 point on the variance, which says it would be the minimum variance, which makes possible the reasonable use of the property. It's just you know,
Well, I mean, we're focusing on this, we're focusing on the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms, but the variance really is on the, because technically you can build or you can propose a 1,500 square foot home with 4 bedrooms and 4 baths, just make everything like very tiny spaces. So I mean, what we're focusing on is in the width of the lot, not the amount of bedrooms and baths. I think it's, that's an important factor. It's not the size of a home, it's not this how many bedrooms or baths the house has, but the width of the lot itself. And because we can tell you we'll propose a smaller home, but regardless, it's a new construction. So what we're asking for is to have the ability to tear down that old structure, which we can't use.
I love the concept that you're taking down, which is deplorable and has been emaciated by previous people. I love the fact that you're putting in something new. I have no problem with that. My only issue I have is bringing it into being such a large 5-bedroom house. That's.
So it's a 3-bedroom plus office, because part of the office design was now with the pandemic, work from home is, it's common. So that's why we decided to put an office, as part of the.
Okay, I have a couple of things I want to ask you. I'm afraid we're getting in the weeds here. We started in the
Sure.
weeds and we're getting into a deeper weed patch here because the only thing we're considering, I'm not concerned with how large the home is as long as you meet all of our code requirements and the style of the house. We can't dictate that. We can't we have not legislated that, so we can't tell you how to design your house. You're here for one thing only, and that is to get a variance because the frontage of the lot is 5 feet too short. That's the only thing I'm really interested in hearing about. So we wouldn't even be having this conversation if you kept part of the structure that's there. So the bottom line is you bought a house, you bought a property that had a structure on it. You didn't buy it to demo it, you bought to build. So the point you were making earlier about you wanted to demo, you can't demo now because we changed our construction policies, our construction rules. They don't really hold a lot of water, honestly, because you had to build something anyway. And if you're going to tear it down, the lot's undersized. The frontage is too short. So all that really matters to me is that the frontage is 5 feet too short. So let's talk about that, please. If you kept the structure that's there, we wouldn't even be here tonight. If you kept the structure in whole or in part, so you wouldn't have to keep the entire structure. You could keep part of that structure and work some of those walls. I'm sorry, did you say you were the architect? If you used some of the walls and incorporated them into your design, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You could just keep some of those walls, work it out. You're an architect, and you could do whatever you want to within our code because you bought a property that's already undersized and you're keeping the structure that's there. So we're only here because you're choosing to tear it down. So you don't have to tear it down. You can keep part of the structure. So this whole thing hinges on the fact that you have an engineer's report that says that the building is not structurally sound. So let's talk about that. Because in the report, and I don't want to misquote it here, but in the report, it says, let me pull up the report here. Do you know what page it's on in your presentation? 23. In the report, it very clearly says, the report is strictly based on a visual observation performed by the inspector and is in no way the same, and in no way the same should be construed directly or indirectly as a guarantee of the real state of the structure evaluated. So I don't see that this engineer is saying anywhere in here that some parts of this building could not be used in the design of a home for which you would not need a variance. So when we get to the point here shortly where we're going to talk about minimum variance requests, you don't need a variance request. Because the engineer is not saying that some part of that structure could not be used in your design. The engineer is saying very clearly that this is not a guarantee of the real state of the structure that I evaluated. He did a visual, I think it's a man, yes, he did a visual inspection of the property and deemed it to be unsafe. Well, you don't, let me finish. You're not keeping the entire structure, so the structure doesn't have to be safe. You could take it down to a very small amount of the walls that you incorporate into the structure, and no one would ever know those walls were even there. So I don't understand why you're even here for a variance request, quite frankly, because you bought a property that's undersized, either the frontage was too short, you knew that when you bought it, or if you didn't do your due diligence. Regardless, that's your issue, not ours. And you don't have to tear that building down. You can keep part of that building, incorporate it into the design, and go about your business. And this village can't tell you what to do other than to meet the setbacks and the other things. And you could do a 2-story building, and we have no maximum height. You have so many options in front of you just by keeping some of the walls.
Vice Mayor.
So can you,
Because it's the question portion.
yeah.
Was it as a question?
So can you explain why, explain where in here the engineer is really saying that some portion of that building can't stay?
Yes. We spoke with the engineer, and what he's saying is it's much more safe and less expensive to demolish the whole structure, because it's definitely, and obviously he only saw the structure inside and out. He didn't do any internal inspections to the concrete or to the metals there are. He only saw that there's some leaks in some features, and he recommended that it was not safe to keep it.
The structure.
The structure, the
As
whole,
is.
yeah, as it is.
Right.
And we did a house with mainly a nail, and it's almost the same house as we're having now. And I can show it to you. I have it. I'm going to show you because we did a design with maintaining the whole walls, and the result of that, it's that we're doing the same house more or less. So what finally the conclusion was, come on, let's go for a variance, because there's no point in keeping 2 walls that, I mean, for a house that it's going to be.
Okay.
So as a matter of fact, we spent a year for this meeting. So we decided to ask for the variance, because we think that it's best for the village and the best, obviously, for us. I'm going to show you.
Let me ask the question this way. Can you achieve the same end by keeping some of the walls and not needing a variance at all? Not the whole structure. Can you keep some part of the structure? Right. Can you keep some part of the structure and come to the same end result of a house that's pretty much like this and is the same square footage and the house that you want to put on the market?
Again, that's
Mm-hmm. What are the red lines that we're looking at? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I understand that.
well,
I understand that, but we have to consider the 4 points of the variance, and I'm just
right,
trying to, we
right,
can't step outside of that.
the issue with this, it's essentially the same. It's a very similar home in terms of square footage and amount of bedrooms and baths. But again, the issue there is this how sound the walls are in terms of structure, right? Because that's the real concern, right? Like we as well as our engineer, structural engineer, don't believe that those walls, right, are sound enough to say we're going to do a new construction.
Where does it say that in the report? That's what I'm looking for in the report, and I don't see that.
So if I can just ask a quick question. The inspector in the beginning says that he was contacted to perform a visual inspection. Why did you guys contract him to perform just a visual inspection instead of a full inspection? That's the first question. And the second question is, was the inspector physically on property? Did he actually show, or was it through pictures and?
No,
He was on property.
correct.
So why was he contracted to just perform a visual inspection instead of a full structural inspection of the property?
Well, we had to go through this process, right? We had already invested, right, heavily in plans, which we spent almost $3,000 in plans, right? Which, based on our meetings, we had to redo them, right? So we didn't want to continue. We wanted to go through these meetings first before, right, continuing to invest heavily again to see what the result of our efforts before we continue to invest, because a full report can be in the thousands of dollars, and we just can't simply continue to invest if, again, we're going to be denied regardless. So that's we want to get the variance in order for us to do the proposed project. So that's the reason we just did not want to continue investing right before we had these meetings.
Technically, the engineer doesn't have to do an internal inspection because there's only blocks and piles and a concrete line sustaining the walls. It's very simple. It's just a shell and that's it. So he doesn't have to do too much of a work. So the only thing that he had to do was to go to the house, inspect it visually, inspect the whole construction, the whole piles. And what he said is, we have to do new foundations for the whole house. We need to do because he need to be putting new piles. He's not going to use the old piles because it's a different way. It's a different structure, and it's a much more heavy house. So he said it's not worth it to maintain a foundation that anyway we have to demolish it.
So in this report, it talks about the foundation. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I didn't read about it.
I don't know if he report the foundation, but it's an
Because
obvious.
that's important, right?
Yeah, but it's a very obvious thing.
Well,
If the house is much more heavy, we need to do new foundations and we need to do new pilings. And what we had on the iPad here is that maintaining those walls, we have to demolish them. If we want to maintain them, we need to demolish them and do them again in the same place that they are. So that's when he said, come on, let's go for a variance because we believe it's going to be a better built house. And we need, that's the main issue here. We need to do a very well built house. We're not going to be building because there's a lot of responsibility here, and we don't want to mess with that. That's very, very, very.
Madam
Yeah.
Mayor, before, I'm not going to go into my points right now, but one of the things that was just
Talk into the microphone.
Commissioner Gonzalez just brought up something that really bothers me, is that you didn't do a complete, it was like you're cutting costs and you didn't go in to do this the right way. I hope I can explain it right. With this inspection, I don't think this inspection was done thoroughly, and it should have been,
This is an opportunity to ask questions.
okay, I'm sorry, okay.
Later to get into discussion.
Okay, well, okay, question is, I think you answered it, but why was, you didn't think it was efficient
Because
enough to do it?
the building is not that complex. So for an engineer, for a civil engineer, for our civil engineer to go into the house and just look at the foundation, if you see the house right now, it's almost as you can see it here. He didn't have to see because look how it is. This is how we received the house. So you can see, you're concerned about the inspection. So, he went and he didn't, all the drywall is gone, all the ceiling is gone. the pipes, everything is gone. So that's why he said, I mean, he went for a real visual inspection, and with that, he was able to say, anyway, you have to demolish the house. Anyway, one way or another, you have to demolish it because the structural, the house is going to be heavier. We have a
But you're
concrete.
basing this on an unsafe structural conditions, and we don't have anything that says it's unsafe structural conditions.
Not for the house that it's built.
No, I'm
Because-
talking about,
No, for the house that it's built right now, it's not unsafe.
who
But
says it's unsafe?
the engineer,
It doesn't quite say that. It doesn't really say.
well,
Jenny, may I ask you a couple? of
that's what he
questions?
recommended us. I know that you're trying to convince us that it's better not to do the variance. But we as architects and as developers, we believe that the best thing is to hand in a very well-built building. So that's
a
what we are aiming for. So
I have a couple of quick questions for you, if you don't mind.
Before we, sorry, Mr. Kennedy, I mean, we also understand we wouldn't be going through this trouble, right? If we believe we could use it. Honestly, we bought a property in November of 2020. We're now in January of 2021, right? It's been 2022. Like we wouldn't go through this. We wouldn't go through months of meetings if we honestly didn't believe this is the best for the structure. We have to go with the advice of our engineer, because if tomorrow we ignore our engineer and to avoid this, we try to use those walls and something happens to the structure, right? Like we are responsible, with all due respect, not the village, but we are as the people that are doing the project.
They're going to be complying with that.
Correct, but I mean,
Okay. Okay, I have a couple of quick questions for you. When you bought the house, you're saying it was in this condition already.
yes,
Did you
it was-
inspect the house before you bought it?
Yes, this was.
So you didn't know the inspection didn't
No,
come with the
because
same results for you?
We were asked to demolish the house.
the time when we bought it, we knew that the city was asking us to demolish it. And it was very easy to demolish. We didn't.
When did the city ask you to demolish it?
As soon as we went, we asked if we were able to demolish it, and
You asked
they
if you
said,
were able to demolish it. The
Yeah.
city didn't tell you you had to
no,
demolish
no,
it.
no. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Okay. So back up. So
No, I'm sorry. We could not close on the property without a reoccupancy certificate, right? The previous owner got a reoccupancy certificate signed by the city at that time with the condition that we started pulling permits to demolish the property within 90 days. So that was and I met with Skip. I sat down with Skip in the office and I showed him the MEPs, preliminary MEPs of what we were proposing. And he knew very well that, and we went over the demolishing and building a new home. So
are you telling us that the village told you to demolish that building? Or did you go to the village and say, may we demolish the building? Which was it? You asked. Okay, so the village did not tell you to demolish that building. Okay, so back to my question. When you bought the building, did you inspect it?
yeah.
Okay, so did anyone come to you with this kind of a report and say, we did a visual inspection and this building is unsound?
Well, at that time, right, we were going to demolish it.
Okay, so the answer is no. So you didn't, okay, so in other words, you did not get an inspection that led you to understand that you wanted to demolish it. You weren't told to demolish. Okay, I understand.
No,
Next question. On here, I don't see where the septic and drain field will go. I see where they are now. Where, on this design, where will the septic and drain field be located? I don't see it on there.
it's in the MEPs.
I don't see it on anything we saw. Is it in the front yard or the backyard?
The septic tank,
And the drain field?
it's in the,
Because I don't see room for it back there
No,
because
it's
the backyard leads directly to
Oh,
a patio
that's
to the
one.
pool.
It's in the
existing ones?
Yeah.
We redo
I mean,
the
clearly,
driveway,
you're building over the existing one,
did the driveway.
so it's in the front.
It's in the
Okay,
front. We
that was
redid
my
the
question.
driveway, it's in the front.
Next question, will you be, with that design, hold that up again for us, please. With that design, will you be able to meet the Miami-Dade County minimum landscaping code on that property? For location of the trees of certain sizes and everything else? Okay, where will the trees be located? I see the one tree that's, is that the existing tree? You're not taking that tree out? That,
That was just used as a point of reference in our plans.
so you're taking the tree out there's only one tree on that property, right? And you're taking that out and you're putting three, because you know you have to put 3 more trees on the
Correct.
property.
We're gonna.
And
meet
a
all the
whole lot more
landscape-
landscaping has to go. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Considering the fact that you're asking us to allow for a lot size that is shorter across the front, is there any way that I know you're meeting setbacks, so you're doing that, but this is the point at which we would try to negotiate something to make sure, since we're giving, we're getting, is there any way, to Judy's concern, I think, that you can have this building impact the street less, maybe with additional setback or pushing it back farther, so it doesn't impose, because it is going to be, while it meets the setbacks, it's a good sized structure squeezed into a smaller lot there. Is there any way that you could lessen the impact from the street?
What would you propose?
I don't know. I'm asking you, you're architects and
Could
designers.
we move the building back? Is that the question?
I'm saying, for example,
We could move this wall. We could reduce it like 2 feet or something.
so
like
you
that.
could increase the setback on the
Yeah,
north
we
side.
could go for 11 feet.
Okay, so on the north side, you could do 2 extra feet of setback to try to.
1 or
minimize
2,
the impact.
whatever we agree.
Okay.
Better 1.
Okay, those were my questions. Thanks.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the commission?
Yeah, but I think we have somebody here from planning and zoning.
And we'll go to that part now. So is there anyone else present who would like to speak in support of the application? Please identify yourself by raising your hand. Please state your name and address and whether you have been sworn in. And Patrice on Zoom is raising his hand in support of the application.
It looks like Patrick, who's the next door neighbor, I believe.
Yes, he's raising his hand to comment on the application.
Hello all. Hello Mayor. Hello Vice Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank you. My name is Patrick Cohen. I live at 11638 Northeast 7th Avenue. I'm the neighbor of the property you guys are discussing right now. I just first like to say that indeed the current owners of the house were not the ones who did the construction and the demolition job. I had to endure that from the previous owner. And so he's the one who came in. They were working at all times of the day, on weekends, on everything. So just want to make that clear that I am aware that it's not the current owner. I just like to support him in that. Secondly, I'd like to also clarify the whole structure of the garage. The concrete wall separating both structures goes all the way to the roof and above the roof. And it's like in 2 individual structures that are stuck together. So by them removing only 3 walls, I get to keep the main wall, which is on our property line. And of course, if they could reinforce that, it would be better. But the rest of the structure, I just had it repainted and fixed. There were a few cracks in the concrete, and it is a solid structure. Even though it's 50 years or 60 years, my house, as you guys know, is 1926. And that structure was put in, I think, in 1950 or something like that. I'm trying to look through the records of Biscayne Park. So yes, it is quite old, but it's super solid. No termite damage, and the concrete is really solid. So by them removing only the 3 walls on their side of on their property, my structure should hold perfectly fine. And if they reinforce it, it will be even better. They used to make these concrete structures really solid. It's concrete block, which they filled in with more concrete. And that's why these old houses last so long, because they lived through so many hurricanes, so many things, and they're still standing because they used to build them really solid back then.
Excuse me, we'll discuss
yes.
the structure of yours when we deal with
No
your
problem.
variance.
No, no
okay?
problem. I just, because I know it came up, so I wanted to just, put in my 2 cents. And so I'm just in support of this house because I've had to live next to this house. I was friends with John, who used to live there. I've seen all the new owners come in and out. I've been through it, and they're gonna fix it, not fix it. And now it's been like almost 4 years since John passed, and that house is still there. And I just wanted to, I repainted my house as well. I'm trying to make it nicer. If he does his house, I know that Oscar, who lives across the street from me, also wants to do some work with his house. And I think it's good for the park. It's good for our neighborhood. It makes everything nicer. So that's all I had to say on that matter. I just want to support him, and I think it's a good thing. At least something's going to get done with that property finally, after so many years of it being like, we've had people come in there, squatters living in there, breaking glass. We hear all kinds of noises. It's just about time that something has been done with that property.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of the application? I do not see any hands. You may be in opposed to it. This is in support. I don't see anybody raising their hand. So is there anyone present who would like to speak against the application? Please identify yourself by raising your hand, state your name, address, and whether you have been sworn in.
You have Janie Anderson with her hand up.
Thank you. Janie Anderson, 11905 Northeast 11th Place. I know it's tempting to want to be in support of someone who's going to take down, let's face it, a not so attractive structure and put up a brand new one. But it's the obligation of the 5 commission members to look into things deeper, to look into long-term consequences. It is not unusual for us to have ordinances where someone may have done something under one code, but circumstances change and they now have to conform to that new code. And that's what you guys are dealing with here. A critical element in our community is the openness of our lots. And that's made up of frontage, size, any easement, all of it. When we start to build larger homes on a lot that's 5 feet smaller than what's allowable, you start chipping away at what makes us really special and get us a whole lot closer to those 0 lot line homes that we all say we don't like up in Broward. And if you remember, you had an easement encroachment variance several months ago, and that was part of the reason you guys rightfully so denied that one. This is a similar situation in terms of encroaching on the openness of our village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak against the application?
I apologize for interrupting. Bob would, but he has to come out here to my iPad. Is that okay, Mayor?
Yes. What happened to your computer there? Robert?
The sound died.
Oh, okay.
I have to get it worked on.
The tech guy.
I'm Bob Anderson, 119th Street, 11th Place. This is a non-conforming structure right now because the lot is undersized. The law was changed many, many, many years ago to have the minimum size of 75 feet wide. And non-conforming structures can stay, but they got to go ahead and stay within their boundaries. And to go ahead and start building something brand new, tearing out, because once you tear it out, you have no longer a non-conforming structure, and it goes completely against our ordinance. And I think we need to stay within our ordinance because you're going to be finding things like this is going to start popping up all over our village. People need to maintain their property, not let it fall apart. Just saying, oh, too bad it fell apart. I've sold it. And somebody else's problem. Now they can go ahead and put in something new. And it's important to look at maintaining your property. Otherwise, it's going to be vacant property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak from the public? Okay, and now is there anything else the applicant would like to add?
P&Z is here as well.
I agree with our neighbors on what they said, but they know what we're going to build, and we are filing the house. And that's the most important thing, that we are not going to do or build a house like the one it is just above ours, that it's a huge house. We are maintaining a very low profile house. And anyway, if we maintain the existing walls, we will be doing something like that. So we're not doing anything that it's against the village. We're not, as she said, that we should maintain on compliance and in the ordinance, something like that.
What he's trying to, what I can add is, we're not asking to, instead of having 10-foot side setbacks, to have 5. We're not asking for, instead of a 30-foot setback in the front, to have 20. We're asking for us to be able to demolish that structure and build a new one, maintaining the same regulations and setbacks that the village has in place. That's, we're not asking for 0 lot lines. We're not asking for less green space. We're not asking for 80% lot coverage. All we're doing is building a new home, maintaining all the setbacks, and demolishing the old one. Everything else is maintained as a village.
And you have to take into account that we're not making a two-story building. We're only doing a 1-story building. I mean, that's very important to be conscious of, because we are being very generous, we can say, with the whole proposal. I mean, we don't want to do a bad thing. We want to do a very good house, and because this is good for the village. This is good for everyone. It's a win-win for everyone.
I would like to hear from planning and zoning.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Halpin and commissioners. My name is Edward Leyva. I'm the vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board. Chairman Hartung asked me to attend tonight's hearing to provide a summary of the P&Z board's recommendations regarding the 2 variance applications before you. I apologize that I was late. I was under the impression the meeting started at 6:30, not 6. I may not be asked by Gage to ever do this again on his behalf, but I'm here. I did prepare a kind of brief summary of the board's view. It may be a bit redundant because it seems like you all have kind of honed in on the salient points, but I'll read it nevertheless. The applicant's requesting a variance to construct a new building on a lot with 70-foot frontage or width where 75 feet is required. In discussing the application, the board took into account several factors, including the fact that there is an existing structure on the property. By seeking to demolish the existing structure in its entirety, the applicant is in essence creating the need for variance. If instead the applicant were to leave in place 50% of the existing structure, a variance would not be required insofar as the existing lot frontage nonconformance would be grandfathered. In response, the applicant has provided an engineer's report, which alleges that no part of the existing structure is safe to remain in place. Preservation of the existing building notwithstanding, the board did agree that the applicant was proposing a substantial improvement to the property, considering it's currently an abandoned boarded up structure, which is both unsightly and unsafe. New construction or a substantial renovation would be a welcome improvement to the property. If the existing structural report, if the existing structure is indeed unsafe, and I'm not here to say whether that is the case or not, and must be demolished as per the structural engineer's report, then at some point in time, a variance will be required. Otherwise, the existing abandoned structure may never be replaced or made suitable for occupancy, which would not be in the best interest of the village. The existing structure also includes a non-conforming detached garage structure, which is located directly on the property line with no setback, which the applicant plans to remove as part of the proposed new construction. This is another improvement welcomed by the board. Given these conditions, the board felt that the first 3 points of the variance application requirements had been met, that there are special circumstances affecting the property, that the strict application of the code would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land,
that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property right of the applicant, and that granting the variance will not be detrimental to public welfare or its residents. However, on the fourth point of the variance application, the board did not agree that the proposed variance is the minimum variance which makes possible the reasonable use of the applicant's property. The existing structure is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home with living area of 1,371 square feet on a 10,850 square foot lot. The new structure proposed by the applicant is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath plus 2 half-bath home with living area of 3,350 square feet, which is almost 3 times the area of the existing structure. While the proposed development meets the minimum setbacks and maximum lot coverage regulations of the zoning code, the board felt that the scale of the proposed home was not in line with that of typical homes in the area and risked being an example of the type of overdevelopment which the village has become increasingly concerned about in recent months. Further, there are a number of non-conforming properties in the village with older, smaller scale homes, and the board is very sensitive to the concern that such a variance could set a precedent encouraging other property owners or developers to allow existing older structures to fall into disrepair in order to justify their complete demolition and seek similar variances for construction of larger, newer homes, what is sometimes referred to as demolition by neglect. Therefore, the board advised the applicant that in its view, a smaller scale development would be more appropriate given the requirements of the variance application. In consideration of the above, the P&Z voted 2-1 in favor of recommending against approval of this variance based on the current proposed plans.
Would the applicant like to respond?
Thank you very much.
Would the applicant like to respond? Do you have any further comments before the commission deliberates?
I believe the zoning compliance and the size of the house is not a matter. I mean, we could do as big as we could the house, and we're not doing that. We're doing like 70% of what we can do. So we don't want to do a massive house. I mean, we want to do a simple single family home. I mean, the design is very simple. It's very clean. It doesn't have any baroquisms. It's very simple. That's our architecture, and that's what we do, and that's what we've been doing for the past 30 years. And that's, I mean, we found this beautiful village, and we want to start developing because we have another house here, another lot here, 967 with 9th Street. I don't know if you already saw what we are proposing, but it's a simple house. It's a 1-story. We were proposing 2 stories, and because of the board, they told us they recommend us to do only 1 story, and we follow that. And so that's what we want to do. I mean, we don't want to mess with the beauty of the village, and we want to be very sure that you're understanding that, because we're going to do a very good job. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I have. And thank you for the report of the zoning and building department, because I think that's in favor of us, and that's what I want to say.
The commission can now begin their discussions and deliberations.
Again, my only concern is how much of the lot is being taken up by a structure. My concern is how much of the lot is being taken up by the structure. Again, people are getting very sensitive in this village about large structures when they've got small structures. They don't want to feel like everything next to them is humongous. So I would ask you to do some type of a concession to downscale it a little bit for the sensitivity of the people in this village who we have to answer to.
Taking more testimony from them.
What, may I respond?
I don't think so, no.
If there's consensus to permit him to.
I think we need to have our discussion, and we can, yeah.
Can I say something? Just okay.
So here are a couple of things for me, guys. for us to consider. I know that every time we come to these variance hearings, we talk about, we have to take them on a case-by-case basis, right? But I don't look at it that way. I always look at the bigger picture. And I think that that's, I think that it's important for us to consider, right? So there's a couple of things that I think that we need to think about. First of all, we have other lots in this village that are undersized currently, right? This is not the only lot that exists that is not per se buildable. The B house is an example. We have large lots that people may want to come here at some point and want to subdivide, and they may or may not be the right size, and they may come here for a variance as well, right? We also have owners and developers coming before us quite often, buying properties and then telling us, oh, we didn't know. We didn't know that this wasn't allowed, which is, it's not on us, it's on them to understand what our building codes and what they can and cannot do. This particular developer, from what I've seen, is adhering to all of the current codes and setbacks on our books, unless I'm mistaken, right? Whether we like it or whether we don't like it, it's allowed, right? And so they're currently meeting all of our setbacks. So there's only two real questions that I have, guys, and that is the variance, again, the same thing that he said, is the variance the minimum variance which makes possible the reasonable use of the property? That's my first question. And can or will they do what Commissioner Kennedy suggested, which was to use some of the current structure to build what they want? And I need those two questions for me. I need those two questions answered in order for me to decide, which way I'm gonna go with this. And I will come back. We'll chat about that.
Okay, well, if I may answer that partially, when I asked him that, he did show us on that diagram with the red lines that he could build the same structure using some of the walls. So he did already establish that he could do that. Okay, so when we have these hearings, they're very cut and dry for me. I mean, I can have an opinion about what you're going to build. In this case, it happens to be favorable. I happen to like what you're showing us, and I think will add value. And so I have my personal opinion. That doesn't really matter. My personal opinion doesn't matter on this. We are bound to the 4 points of the variance. And if you fail to meet any one of them, just one, then we're required to vote no. So, so I thank you for a great presentation. I also heard anecdotally that you guys were great to work with at PNC. They were very complimentary of how you handled yourselves in the meetings, and you were easy to work with. And sometimes that's not the case with everybody that goes in front of PNC. So thank you for that. And I know you have some other interest in the village elsewhere up on 10th Avenue. So we're happy to have you here doing work, but we need to follow our rules. So for me, it's simply, do you meet all 4 variants, all 4 points of the variance? And I struggle with that. I don't struggle actually, because on the first one, it's a no. Will the strict application deprive you of loose use of your land? No, because you showed us that you could accomplish the same thing or something very much like it. That could be the same size, the same number of bedrooms, bathrooms. You could accomplish it. And if you didn't show us that on that diagram, an architect could. You could. You're an architect. You could. So if we strictly apply this, will you not be able to use your land? No, that's not the case. You most certainly can. You can keep some of those walls and go about your business and build a beautiful home and get the same amount of money for it, because you're here to make money. You're here to flip the building and make money. And we appreciate that. So you don't make the first point for me. The second point, is it necessary for substantial property right? No, again, no, because you could keep some of those walls. So you don't have to have this to be able to use it. You bought a property that had a structure on it, and you knew what condition it was in. And if you didn't, that's on you again. But you know what you bought. And again, you could accomplish the same end result for us and for yourselves. So I don't see how changing the frontage of the lot is going to help. You don't even need to ask us for this, is what I'm getting at. We don't even need to be here having a variance hearing, because you could work within our rules and build something gorgeous and that size on an undersized lot. So you can build on this lot, I'm sorry, it's not undersized, on a lot that has a short frontage. So you can accomplish it. So is this the minimum variance? No. We're going to go down and have our discussion, and then I think we may allow you to say something again. So based on what I heard here tonight, and based on and it really hinges for me on the inspector's report, that does not indicate that some of those walls could not be used. And you showed us a picture where you could make it work. So that's my feeling on the matter. And it really is no opinion on you guys or the work that you're proposing to do for the village in any way. It's simply we're required to follow the variance rules, and you don't meet some of the variance points for me.
I would really like to see you submit, excuse me, a new rendering with a wall in it or a smaller. If you can show another drawing where you have a wall, an existing wall, part of the whole thing, or have the house slightly smaller.
She
So
means when
it's
you
not
come back.
so-
She doesn't mean now. She means if you come back and try again.
Yeah.
Is what you meant. Okay, but he's gonna get up and show you a picture. He thinks you want him to show you something.
No, he can understand me. Yes. But, and I understand you are pleasant to work with and we'd like you in the village, but we do have these problems. So if you could resubmit, I'd appreciate that. Dan?
Oh, yeah. The inspections report bothered me that you didn't want to spend the money to have a complete internal, and that bothered me a lot. And also that you could, and I agree with Commissioner Kennedy and Vice Mayor Kennedy and Commissioner Gonzalez, that you could use part of the walls, keep it as it is, and you wouldn't have to come with the variance. The board recommended that you met the first three, and the fourth one is the one that bothers me. And so right now, I would think you guys are doing a good job, and I'd like to see you come back into the village. And I agree with the mayor that if you can come back with a better structure that would show of what the commissioners have brought out, if we kept certain amount of walls, would you still be able to accomplish what you wanted to do? And you said you can. So I want to see something that shows that.
I think we're finished. Valerie, if they want to.
I would like to hear more from. I would like to hear. Yes, I like to hear from them to answer them all.
Listening to them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem listening to them.
As I said before, you're saying that we can maintain the walls. We can't. The walls need to be demolished. Even if we go for the option of the option you're proposing. Even if we don't do the variance, we will have to be those walls. It's obliged. Because they're not safe. So anyway, we need to do, even if we put them in the same place, we will be needing them to be demolished because they're not safe. And answering Dan, we didn't do a deeper inspection because there's no need. There's no need because if you go to the house, it's empty. You can see everything of the house, even the foundations. You can see the foundations. You can see everything, the roof, the shell, everything. So, and you can see how bad it is. So that's why we are asking for the variance, because one way or another, we need to demolish the whole structure. And I agree what Art said. We could do using it the house, but we won't be safe, and it's not going to be responsible. It's not professional to do that. So I believe we do meet with the 4 requirements, because there's not a single one that it's not No, ¿ah? No, creo que los estamos cumpliendo todos. Cada uno de los puntos estamos cumpliéndolos. O sea, yeah, I know. Sorry. I know. That was all I wanted to say.
Listen, I get it and I understand what you're saying. And I think, and you're the architect, you're hired by him, you're representing him, correct? So had you, oh, you're partial, okay, fine, even better. So you're both owners. I think that as far as the wall structure is concerned that we keep talking about, that you keep bringing up, had you come here with an engineer report that actually said, we tested the walls, or, I'm not an engineer, I don't, but other than a visual inspection, I can go into a house and I can tell you this, we should demolish this house. Okay, but I'm not an engineer. But had you come in here, I would have said, I could have thought differently if you would have told me, you would have brought in an engineer report here and said, hey, we've tested these walls, we've tested the foundation, this is the situation, it's going to fall, it's going to crumble. If we add any weight, something like that, then I would have said, hey, well, wait a minute. Now, maybe this having certain amount of walls is not realistic, right? But because you don't have that, or because you didn't bring it, we have to go with what we have. And what we have is, what you presented, and that's all we have. And honestly, I love your project. I think it's fantastic. I want to see buildings built in Biscayne Park. I'm not against building new buildings, but we have to go with, like Commissioner Kennedy said, we have to go with what we're presented and the points that we have to adhere to. And right now, because of that, I just because you're telling me, and I'm not saying that you're not saying the truth, I'm just telling you that for me, that would have helped.
Also, is this the existing structure? Is it concrete? Because I will tell you, my house after Hurricane Wilma took off the roof and took down the walls, and it was gutted. The only thing interior in that house were the studs. There was nothing left of my house, although I am on a concrete foundation. That might have made it a little bit more structural, but it was a gutted house and it had to be a totally rebuilt. So, yeah. Yeah. My big issue is the number 4 part, but I understand the structural engineering issue. But it's just a hard stretch for us. We have to answer to the people of this village.
Madam Mayor, if we turn down this variance and they come back with, because I agree with Commissioner Kennedy and Commissioner Gonzalez about the engineer's report, that bothers me big time. If they was to, we turn them down with this variance, can they come back for another variance with the engineer's report?
Yes,
Madam-
they can reapply for another variance.
Is there time frame, or they can come back right away, right?
There's nothing in the code setting a time frame for which they can reapply.
Or a new drawing, slightly smaller.
Smaller, and smaller, also saying what you're
Yes,
saying,
we agree on that. We're I mean,
smaller,
we're-
but I also want to see the part that you're saying where the engineer would say that the wall has to come down. I don't see that in the report.
Yes, the thing is that we have spent 1 year in this matter. So if we don't get approved, we will be going with the second option. But anyway, we need to be demolishing the foundations and the walls to do them again new on the same place. So I mean, that's a pity because that's restraining us to do a better job, a better house, so I mean, that's why I don't think that, because anyway, we need to demolish them. The foundation, the piles, the calculus of the weight of the building is not the same as the old one. It's a totally different structure. So we need to do it again. So I'm just please begging you to consider that, because if we go for if we don't get approved, we'll go for the proposal that I show you here, and it'll be more or less the same. And anyway, I don't know how the building and zone department will handle this, but they will have to approve the demolition of the whole structure anyway, because it's not safe.
I'm sure planning and zoning will work with you
Okay.
to see, to present a new one. Thank you.
My biggest concern.
But if you,
Go ahead.
My biggest concern was the engineer's report. I don't understand why you didn't come back with a thorough engineer's report. I understand if it's costs. I'm in business and I want to cut my costs to be done right, but I'm going to be sure that I do the job right, even
Right.
if it costs me more money. By you not doing a complete engineer's report bothers me big time. And I'm not saying that anything that you're doing dishonest, okay? But that bothers me as a businessman.
We're going with expensive, with a more expensive way, because we are doing a new structure.
Right.
We
but if-
could have used, we can use that structure.
See, here's the
Obviously,
thing.
we can use it
But see,
and do
here's
a
the-
cheap house. We
here's
could
the-
do that, but
it-
we're not doing that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you would have done that from the beginning, what everybody in this commission has been
Yeah,
suggesting,
you're right. No,
your
you're right.
cost would have been would have been much
Yeah,
cheaper.
you're right.
So that to me is bad, judgment. And I believe you're sincere on everything that you're doing. But the engineer's report, especially being in the pest control business, that's very important. And you can't always go by, I want to save money. Everybody wants to save money in business. But because you didn't do what you should have done from the beginning because of the cost, it's costing you now. That you're probably going to have to do that again, which is going to cost you a lot more money.
All right, let's not beat a dead horse.
yeah,
huh?
No,
let's
the
not
thing is
lose-
that
and I just
it-
want to
it
respond to
was
something.
so
that we-
obvious for us that the structure was so bad. I wouldn't think that it was going to be this.
We're just following the variance procedures.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Nothing personal. I just want to make sure, I want to respond to something you just said, because it's kind of important, because I don't want you guys to get yourself tangled up on something. I think you just said you're going to have to tear down the building, but you can't get a demo permit from the village until you get approved plans, and P and Z is not going to approve plans because because the frontage is too wide. So you're going to loop yourself back into the same process again. So you're clear. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I think you do have an end run around this. You don't need our permission. I think you have a way to go do exactly what you want to do without having to get our, seal of approval on it. You can just save some of the walls and go about your day.
Thank you for coming.
Before you vote, please allow me to remind you that the record must contain competent substantial evidence which has been presented to you during the course of this hearing. Competent substantial evidence is such evidence as will establish a substantial basis of fact from which your findings can be reasonably inferred. It is such relevant evidence as a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support the conclusion. Competent substantial evidence includes expert testimony, fact-based comments of neighbors and laypersons. It does not include conjecture, speculation, or generalized statements in support or opposed to the matter. You may now vote. My recollection is that the initial motion was to deny.
Yes, my motion was to deny, so we're voting to deny.
Correct.
So if we vote yes, we're voting to deny the variance, and if we vote no, we're voting.
You
Not
want to
tonight.
call the roll, please?
And the motion would fail and then.
Exactly.
Mayor O'Happen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammelberg, Commissioner Samaria.
Yes.
We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you for coming.
Denial.
Thank you, guys. Jenny, can we take a 5-minute break between these two hearings? Thank you.
We're going to be taking.
We're taking a 5-minute break.
Edward, thank you for being here. Over here. Yeah, no, we're going to cover that in about 5 minutes. We're taking a little break, but I appreciate your input. It helps us.
We're still on, by the way.
Everybody ready? Valerie? Good evening. We will continue with our next variance. PV 22-0002. Valerie, do you want to handle that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we are now on the second variance on today's agenda. So we're beginning the quasi-judicial hearing related to property 11638 Northeast 7th Avenue. Again, the material in the commission's agenda package will be considered as part of the record. We now move to quasi-judicial disclosures with respect to this application. If any commissioner has had any ex parte contacts that are not part of the record, those contacts should be verbally disclosed at this time. Are there any disclosures?
Commissioner Samari, I only had a discussion with the city manager.
No.
I emailed Valerie about it. I had a conversation with Gage Hartung, and I did not speak with the resident, but Patrick, apologies. When we've spoken in the past about other things, I called you Patrice. I think I called you the wrong name, so I apologize. Oh, am I muted? No one heard me say that.
Okay, and I had a discussion with Gage Hartung from P and Z, and on the form, it is Patrice, so, but I think it's Patrick.
I also had a conversation with Gage Hartung.
Okay, are there any other disclosures? Okay, I'm just going to remind you once again that the decision at the conclusion of this hearing must be based upon competent, substantial evidence related to the village's code of ordinances and land development regulations, and not generalized opposition that is not based in fact. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this variance.
I would second it.
Okay, at this time, all persons who will be witnesses in this matter, if they have not already been sworn in, please raise your hand so you can be sworn in. Is there anybody? Will the applicant, Patrick Cohen or Elizabeth Fontone, please state your name for the record and present any evidence you would like to offer in support of your application?
That's you now, Patrick. You have to unmute yourself. Good, okay.
Yeah, I just did. Can you guys hear me? Yes, hello?
Yes,
Oh, okay. First, I'd like to thank you all for accepting to see me by Zoom. I'm sorry I'm not in the country right now. We're vacationing in the Dominican Republic, where Bob Anderson seems to be as well. My name is Patrice, but it's a French name. And when I first moved to America, everybody told me that Patrice was a woman's name, and I kept getting flack for it. So I call myself Patrick, and all my business cards and everything is Patrick. But yes, my real name is Patrice Cohen. I just get it all the time, so I call myself Patrick. It makes it easier for everybody. So
you're
just to
starting to
clarify.
look Irish. It's okay, go ahead.
My mom was French, so it's a French name. So yes, so we're looking to get a pool installed, and if I follow the 10-foot variance, the 10-foot setback, that would put the pool about 2 feet from my house and from our daughter's bedroom, which is it's just not feasible to have that. And this south side is the only side of the house where we could actually have a pool, seeing that the back of the house is where the septic tank is currently located, and on the north side of the house it's even smaller than the south side. The north side is about 18 feet from the fence, whereas on the south side we're talking about 22 feet. So if I was to put to follow the 10-foot setback, the pool would be pretty much butted against the house, which is why we requested that 5-foot variance. We initially wanted to do a 2 or 3 foot variance, but then we were going to put a hedge between the pool and the fence, and that was not feasible to only have 2 or 3 feet. So we decided that 5 feet would be just the amount of space we needed to be able to fit in a pool in there. And we also went in with the smallest pool that we could find, which is 9.7 feet wide, which is, it doesn't get much smaller than that for the width of the pool, which we would need to fit the pool in there. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have, or any information you guys are requesting. I did speak to the neighbor, both my neighbors, actually all my neighbors, and they're all okay with it, including the one you guys met with before me. And this pool was supposed to be put in a while ago, and then because of COVID and everything, stepped back. In the meantime, Kareem, who used to own the big house behind me, he was okay with it as well, but now he sold the house. So I don't know who owns the house. I think it's a company who actually I think it's they're Airbnb-ing it or VRBOing it, because it's always different people who are living there. So I haven't had contact with them, but I guess if they had an issue with the pool, they'd be here tonight. So yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. And once again, thank you for seeing me by Zoom. I know I was supposed to be there, but I called the village manager and she said it was okay to do this by Zoom. So I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. And I just have one question of the back garage.
Yes.
You've had people check that building
Yes,
is going to stay when the other side is gone?
yeah, it's actually, that was one of my big concerns, because I was aware of the plans that they had to destroy the garage and the pool, and this building was grandfathered in, and I didn't want to destroy my building, but yes, it was done by their side, saying that it was okay. And me, when I did the concrete work to fix the crack that I had over the door, the guy said, this is an incredible structure for this so old. The wood, there's no termite damage. The roof is solid. And yes, the concrete blocks are solid. And like I explained earlier on, these concrete blocks are filled in concrete. So that structure is not going anywhere unless you demolish it with a bulldozer or with a, you know.
What do you use that room for? Is that a garage?
Well, we're trying to, when we bought the house from Olga, with the previous owner in like 2013, she was using it as storage and she was doing her laundry because we do have electricity and water in there. She had it as a laundry room. We don't know. We want to maybe because we're putting the pool there, so we would probably use it as a guest house, put in a little bed in there or a couch or just like, you know, to entertain when we have the pool and open so we could have maybe I'll put a mini fridge in there and just be able to have maybe a barbecue or something around there. But yeah, nobody would be living in there full time. Obviously, it's just for our house is very small, as you could tell, 1,500 square feet. So that extra added, it's about 350 square foot. It helps a lot. We use it currently. We're just using it as storage. There's nothing. So we don't know. It's still up in the air. We want to first do the pool, and then from there on, we're going to see what we're going to do with it. We have no basic plans for that structure right now, but we know that it's practical because we put all our stuff in there. We still have boxes from when we moved to the property 13 years ago. We're storing them in there. So yeah, it's very practical to have that place.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I do. Hi, Patrick, Patrice.
Hi.
How are
Yeah.
you?
Patrick, yeah, fine.
So on your variance form, you have to answer the 4 questions. And
Yes.
as you heard us say at the last hearing, if you don't meet one of the requirements, we're required to deny. So I have a question about some things on there. What are the special circumstances that don't allow you to put the pool in the backyard of the property?
Well, there's a septic tank that's right there. So if you look, I don't know if you have my.
I do.
my-
I just
you-
wanted
you
to
have-
ask you.
Yeah, so you see there's 25 foot here between the back of the structure and Kareem's old house fence. So there's about 25, and right in the middle of their backside, if you go but about 5 or 6 feet from the structure of the house, that's where the septic tank is right there.
Because you
Right
actually
at-
have more space, other than the septic tank being there, you actually have more space in the back to put the.
Oh,
pool.
we would have loved to put the pool there, but that's where the septic tank is. So.
Are you aware that people often have to move septic tanks and drain fields to accommodate pools on their property?
Yeah, but that's
Consider
that if I have to do that, then my whole pipe the whole pipe that going from under the house goes to the septic tank. I have to redo the whole plumbing of the, so that I'm going into like a lot of money. Which we don't really have right now, to be honest with you. It'd be so much trouble.
Yeah, I ask because often people have to make those changes. I did, not that it matters, but Dan and I did on our property. We had to move ours before we could put the pool in. That was.
Oh yeah, did you? Yeah.
We had to.
Yeah, well,
prepare for it.
yeah. Well, in my case, I have the land right here on the south side of the property, which a pool would fit in, and that's why I'm in front of you guys right now. That's the main reason. I need that 5 foot. I mean, I could obviously put the pool in. Yes, I would be able to put the pool in, but if you calculate here on the south side, I have about 21.6 feet. And if I put a 10-foot pool, I would end up probably with a couple of feet from the house, which is when you have young kids. I have a 5-year-old and my wife is, pregnant with the second one. We don't want that much of such a small gap between the house and the pool. We want to be able to have at least the width of a pathway that we could put between the house and the pool.
I understand. I just wanted to ask about to confirm the septic was there and make sure you knew that you do have that option to move it. The other reason that you may not want to pull, someone may not want to pull in a neighbor's side yard is that it adjoins to the other neighbor's side yard. Now, in this case, there's nothing there right now, or at least it's up in the air what's going to be there, but it's rather close. If we give you this variance, would you consider modifying the fence in any way, if we allow you to put the pool closer to the fence, to create more of a sound barrier there? Like, for example, replace that section of the fence with a wall, or something that would give more privacy to the people next door as part of this project?
Yeah, well, right now, that side of the fence, when I first built that fence, it was only a one-sided fence. I didn't know that I had to put the ugly side towards my side. So when I built the fence, I put the nice planks facing my house and the post facing the neighbor's house. But then I was made aware that I couldn't do that, so I had to double that side of the fence. So that it is a double-sided fence on that side wall to accommodate the neighbor. And also the reason why we left I'm asking for a 5-foot variance instead of just a 2 or 3-foot variance is because we're putting in a whole hedge of bushes that are going to eventually grow higher than the fence, that are going to block off. Because obviously I don't want to see the neighbor's house either. Right now, the way it is, it's an eyesore, first of all, and who knows how long it's going to take. It's been already 4 years. I'm sure like this pool will be done before they even start demolishing their house. So it's in the plans to put a whole hedge of, we don't know if we're going to put clusias in there or podocaris or another type of maybe areca palms. We're not sure what we're going to put in there. We wanted to just go ahead with first seeing that we had the variance first before going ahead and starting to decide what kind of hedge. But yeah, I think with the two-sided fence and a row of hedges, it's going to be pretty thick. We're thinking it's going to be probably end up being 4 or 5 foot wide. We'd have that would be enough barrier for the neighbor not to hear anything, and for us, especially for us not to hear the neighbor, which is one of our goals as well.
Okay, that's my only question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, is there anyone present who would like to speak in support of the application? Please identify yourself by raising your hand and state your name and address and whether you have been sworn in. I believe the planning board was in support of this, so if you would like now to make your presentation.
Good evening again. The applicant's requesting a variance to install a pool 5 feet from the property line where 10 feet setback is required. In discussing the application, the board took into account several factors, including the fact that the applicant is on a corner lot, which creates unique challenges for homeowners seeking to install a pool. The subject property also has narrow setbacks to the existing house, making it difficult to meet the minimum required setback for a pool while providing reasonable pool dimensions and a minimum safe distance from the house to the pool edge. Given these conditions, the board agreed that the first 3 points of the variance application requirements had been met. Further, given these property restrictions, the applicant is requesting a very narrow pool at 9.7 feet in width and is seeking a variance from an interior side setback only, which the board felt met the 4th requirement of the variance application, that the proposed variance is the minimum variance which makes possible the reasonable use of the applicant's property. In consideration of the above, the P&Z board voted 3-0 in favor of recommending for approval of this variance.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of the application? I do not see anybody. Is there anyone present who would like to speak against the application? I believe Bob Anderson has raised his hand.
Bob Anderson?
On the corner lots and stuff, people that have been putting pools in on the corner lots, they've been able to go ahead and get those variances. So this is not an unusual
So
thing.
you're in favor.
And so I am in favor of allowing the pool to go in. The only thing I'm asking is to make sure, before you grant any variance, to make sure there's no outstanding code violations on the property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whether or not a property has code violations is not a factor to consider in denying or approving a variance.
That can't be considered code violations?
No, that is not one of the criteria. Are there anybody else that would like to comment on this application? If not, we would like to give the applicant another opportunity to speak if there's anything else he would like to add.
I'd like to ask the applicant a question. Where in DR are you exactly?
I'm in Punta Cana.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's a pretty basic thing. I mean, if I had the room, I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't even asking you for this variance. This is just a question of safety and enjoyment of my property. I mean, I can't go much smaller than a 9-foot pool, and I don't have the other space to do it. I would have gladly put it on the other side if I had the room, but this is the side that. So I mean, yeah, I just appreciate you guys being able to see me and hear me and accept me seeing you guys by Zoom. So thank you.
And
There's
I'd
nothing
like
further
to
the
make
commission
one
can discuss
comment
and
if I
deliberate.
could. If he had space on the other side with the new rules that went into effect several years ago, he would have been able to get a variance on the others. He wouldn't have needed a variance on the other side. He would have been able to have the setbacks changed for him for that pool, which just because he doesn't have space over there, I think we need to be lenient given the fact of the size of the property.
Patrick, is that a drop-in fiberglass pool?
Yeah, it's a fiberglass pool.
Fiberglass, okay.
Yeah, it's one of those new ones. You can't even tell that it's fiberglass. It's pretty nice. And just to
Yeah.
to clear up on the north side of the property, if you look at the plan here, you see my property line, but at the 20, there's 12 foot from that 21.6. There's a fence there, so the pool would be right in the fence, like. And I need to have a fence. If I have a pool, I need to have a fence to, so nobody could come in. And I think that's one of the requirements of being able to build a pool. So, yeah, that north.
Edward, and that's because on corner lots, they're required to pull the fence in from the property line. You can't put a fence on the property line on a corner lot. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Thanks.
If there's nothing further, then the commission may vote the pending.
Or is this our time to make comment?
Yes, if your
Okay.
discussion and deliberation.
I'll defer to you. Go ahead.
I think that I do agree with P and Z that they have met 4 requirements. And I do like the idea that the fact that the pool, I don't like the idea that do it the opposite way, that it'd be too close to his children's room. That's to me is a big thing. So I think I'm in support of this variance.
I have no problem. We could move the question.
Okay, I just want to make a comment. So to point number 1, it's the only one I really want to discuss. Patrick, will strict application deprive you of use of your land? Well, it wouldn't. You obviously still have use of your land, and you still have a place to put in your pool. It's simply that you could put your pool in your backyard where most pools go. You would have to move your septic tank and your drain field, and just so we're being clear, a lot of people do that. They have to make accommodations to their property. They move septic tanks, they move drain fields. I moved a drain field. They remove patios. We had someone come in who had to remove a big concrete patio to accommodate a pool. So sometimes home improvement projects require advanced preparation, and sometimes people can't afford to do it all at one time. For example, when I did, and I'm just using my example as an example because it comes to mind so easily, we did the drain field septic project, which was big and destroyed our backyard, and had to remove all kinds of landscaping. That in itself was a huge project and cost thousands and thousands of dollars before we could do the pool. So to meet our code, we had to do some things to get ready. So to point number 1, will strict application deprive you of use of your land? No, you don't have to have a pool, but
Let me. Sorry to interrupt you, Mike,
Let
but
me
actually yes, because on the that would be the west side of where you in the back of the house where you say I could put the pool. There's also a 8 by 12 shed that was installed there, which I applied for and you guys approved. Well, the planning and zoning approved, that was installed. So, and I couldn't go out of the frame of the house with the shed, so it was actually put there. So not only the septic tank is underground, I was thinking just septic tank is underground, but there's also a shed that's installed there, which was approved by the city. And
right,
that was like
you
3-4 years ago.
you could also move a shed. My point is that you do have other ways to get around it. And not to be argumentative, and
Yeah,
I have a feeling you're going to get your approval here in a second, but I just want to make sure we're making the point clear that if we're looking at these rules and following them, which we're required to do, you could move your septic tank, your drain field. You may not be able to afford to do it all at one time, but there are ways around this issue for you. That's the only point I want to make.
If there's nothing further, then commission can take a vote. Right now, the motion is to approve.
Mayor O'Happen,
I approve.
Vice Mayor Kennedy,
I'm going to have to say no, Patrick, for the reasons I just stated, but congratulations on your pool.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammelberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Samaria,
Yes.
variance passes.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
thank you very
Take a-
much. Have a
I'll
good
take
evening.
Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I appreciate it. Thank
Second.
you.
You're welcome. Have fun in Punta Cana. I'm
Thank
All
you.
in favor?
I
will.
Aye.
I will.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye-bye.